It's great to be here. I'm hopeful that sort of between the two of us, we can give you some sort of, I think, words of wisdom as practitioners. I think we've both built large language models for good, bad, and whatever else we want to say about them. Before Quid, I was at a company called Palantir, running one of the businesses there, and I could probably write a good book about my time there. But it's great to have you, Liz, on stage. And
did you get to hang out with Peter Thiel once in a while?
Yeah.
That was my first job in
Really?
tech. It was like Peter Thiel, handling him. It was fascinating.
Oh, wow. Well, so, Liz, you've been in and around the models in your prior job. Can you sort of just give us a sense of sort of what you were doing, and what sort of happened and how it worked out? That would be a great place to start.
Oh, no, for sure. Hi, everyone. How are you surviving NRF? This year, I feel really down on myself. Usually, I have juice for Tuesday, but I'm like, what happened? And I didn't even go to the Florida concert. So this, as you know, if you attend the Brand Innovators events, like this AI stuff is not new. We're talking about something that has been evolving for the past decade, 12 years. I've been on the AI track since 2012. And I remember walking the NIF halls yesterday, especially when you go to the innovation section and even the large ones, you see pitches with ROI cases today that back in 2012, 13, 14, 15, it was so hard to get a CEO to believe in it. And the capability for those things were already there. We're talking about good old machine learning, being able to take data sets and extract data and pinpoint to some basic decisions. The era that we're talking about right now is being able to generate, right? So when you hear generative AI, so generate content and generate action. So that's new. And once again, walking through the entire Javits, since Sunday, one thing that you will notice if you have done that, if you had your meetings with your Microsofts and your SAPs and AWS, let's see what else, ServiceNow and Salesforce, you're going to notice that no one can prove anything right now. It's total bullshit. It's so fascinating. And they all at the same stage. I've never seen this before. And then you go to the smaller guys. Some of them have some strong use cases they would proven, but the metrics come from companies that are much smaller than ours, or they are foreign retailers. So it's a very exciting moment to be in AI right now, because I have the situation of something that I'm working on, that Salesforce is going against a mid-level startup, but they don't even know it, right? And if you work in tech, the level is really, it's a level playing field. If you're able to change your pitch from what it used to be 2 years ago, I think that people in SaaS, they need to understand that there is also a trend against them. The notion that SaaS is over, right? So this dependence on a startup that will give me this cookie cutter solution that I can just plug and play and my problems are solved. No, those days are over. I'll explain why later. But what I have done so far, so as a lot of companies, I had the pleasure to create the tech innovation team for our CIO. One thing that it's not on my LinkedIn, I actually stepped away about like November officially, but over the summer I was already decided to leave. And I became head of AI of a very exciting brand, which I can't tell today, but it will be announced by the end of the month. And when I say I'm working on a project, I'm working on a project for them. At Bacelar, what we did, we launched the first retail lab for Microsoft, AI lab. So we were the first retailer to actually do something Microsoft. And the reason that we were able to work with them is that we had a team in-house that's very rare for you to find. We had a data science team. We had engineers. We had strategists in my team. We had trends. We understood the whole landscape. Like when you think about the Gartner matrix of everything that's happening, we had first-hand expertise on what those companies were. We know about your company. And then when we picked a starting point, we didn't pick a sexy thing. We picked something that it was an easy to understand, digestible, very unique to our company starting point. Like if you work in beauty, like you worked in beauty, something that's very important in beauty is the notion of claims. You know, when you say something does something, if you buy this, this is going to happen, right? But the process of claims, the data of claims is very murky, because when you are in R&D, they say a set of terminology. When marketing comes in, they say other things. There's so many touch points, and then it goes from region to region. So to bring that all together, and the legal team wants to know what's being said globally. So to bring all of that together, it would streamline millions of savings for the company. But to put all of that data set together and create a data lake with all that data is a very dangerous thing. Because if you want to really steal the secret sauce of a beauty group, steal that data set, right? And you're going to create a lot of damage to that company. So the way we went out, no one sold that product. It wasn't something that Microsoft had even on their list. But we identified that that would be a cool way to start to create value in a way that no one has heard before, that it was very easy to measure and prove. So what we did, we worked with our team in Microsoft as like an engineering, co-engineering team. We built the product together. We built our own LLM, and then we gave access to only 2 people in the company. I did not have access to that ChatGPT, it's our own chatbot. Only 2 executives had access, and 1 person of my team had access to seeing, to testing, and training the data set. And it's something that created a lot of value, once again, for the company, but it comes from looking inward, identifying the things that are not obvious. It's not the usual sales pitch. And often when we're talking to a solution provider, we could inspire them to go to a place that they're not even thinking, based on the capabilities that they have today.
No, I mean,
that makes sense.
It does. I mean, I think it would be great maybe just to talk a little bit about some of the sort of the process and the thinking as to sort of where are the sort of the areas where you can get a good return. I think I saw yesterday that Google had announced a deal with a retailer where it's doing the alt text, a sort of a necessary now task. I think it's a legal requirement to have alt text on every image, and I think nobody in their right mind wants to sit there and write alt text. Product descriptions, buying guides, all of these kinds of things I think are very possible now. But what advice would you give the group as to sort of where to go first, and how to sort of convince management of the journey, and in some cases quite a considerable expense?
Since you said the word advice, here's a word of advice. Remember Metaverse? So it makes me really mad, and I don't know if it's for the same reason. The reason that I get really mad about Metaverse is that we would have had a very different journey talking about that technology if it wasn't so led by hype and once again, bullshit. Because what we were looking at is interactive UX, different ways to shop, different ways to consume data, and gaming, and then the conversation just went like, woo, to a different place. And the things that were being promised was so wacky that made then the leadership that opens the opportunity for us and budgets for us to get all hyped up and then get disappointed over everything that you did, even when it worked out. So don't allow the same thing to happen again. It's completely up to you. Right now, when you hear agentic and all of that, you have to make that world small and make that world work for you. When you look at your organization, you have, let me oversimplify. You can either think automation or the repetitive tasks and go department by department, or just think of your own department if your job is just to be within your department. What are the most boring stuff nobody here enjoys to do, or things that I kind of enjoy but they're just so time intensive? Could I cut the time of that? Could I not have to do this again? Once you make that list of what those things are, and I recommend making a list, not getting stuck in the first thing you see, then go back to that list and assign value. Is this cost avoidance? Is this cost savings? Is this revenue? And only your own organization will lead you with which ones can you get away with it, right? One thing in my new organization now that I cannot get away with is time saved. Remember time savings? Oh, it saves so much time. Oh, good for you. And then how do you assign value on that time that was saving? So you're going to dump more work in the person, are you going to pay the person more? Or if then the employees go watch TV or just hang out, is that still good? You know what I mean? They didn't do the work. It's, if you have an honest conversation about time savings, we get into a lot of tricky conversations. And the reality at the end of the day, if we're talking about certain industries and certain companies, they're having all kinds of issues with revenue and budget, and you need to use this tool to create some relief. Time savings might not be it, so be careful with that. So think about cost avoidance and cost savings and revenue.
Now, while there's some upside, what's hard? Like, what are the challenges that you faced in actually getting the company to execute on an AI strategy? I've been in the software and tech business as an engineer my whole life, and no disrespect, but retail isn't very well known for sort of its abundance of tech people, and you're at the mercy of many vendors. So what are the sort of the challenges, the risks, the pitfalls? What advice would you give them having done it?
There's two scenarios that are hard. I don't know which scenarios you guys fit in. One scenario is you work for a group and there's a bunch of different brands. Sometimes it looks so good. It's something like fancy and cool, like Estee Lauder or LVMH Group, and your parents are so proud they work there, and it looks great from the outside. But the reality is, you might have budget, but to navigate a group to the other, team to the other, region to the other, the politics are daunting. And if you are in a space that you need to move fast, to implement things fast, or to do things smartly, you need cohesion. Like, you don't want to end up with a different AI tool for different regions. AI crosses languages and culture. Why are you going to have different vendors in different countries? You shouldn't do that anymore. And it's hard when you work for groups. The other hard, I don't know if you're this hard, I'm on this hard now. It's one brand, which is fucking amazing. It's incredible. It's one brand. Because everyone wants the same thing to an extent, and it's so great. Like, I'm tired today, my energy a little low, but if you catch me 2 days from now, I'm always in a good mood. And I tell people in my team, if you get down, call me, because I'm always in a good mood because I came from a group and I'm in one brand. It's great. But I don't have the same budget, right? So I'm cash strapped now. I don't have the same, I can't waste money anymore. I can just test and learn for fun. Every dime has to be justified. But one thing that I have that I really recommend you guys having, I have great friends. So all the partners that I have worked with in the past, and even the ones that I have not worked and hold conversations with, I hold them with respect. I give them a lot of attention. We create things together. We jot things on napkins together. And then this is the moment that I'm calling them back and say, hey, let's build something together. And we're going to create something new that you don't have. And you're not going to charge me consultancy, and I'm not going to charge you consultancy for my wonderful intelligence that I'm giving you for free. But then we're going to arrive at a pricing that that's a promotional price for first client of that service. So it's an opportunity for all kinds of creative approaches. If you don't have a lot of budget, it's what I'm trying to say. There's no excuse to do nothing. I don't care if your budget's freaking tiny. Be creative. There's always a starting point, something small, like the claims thing that I told you. It served 3 people, and it made the company single-digit millions in cost savings, right? And so you'll be surprised the small step that you can take, how big that value could be.
I guess one other thing I think the audience would certainly be keen to understand, of course, is the data, and where is it, and how good is it, and how do you actually pull off getting it all in the same place in a format that you can actually do something with it. So can you talk a little bit about your experience of operating and executing a good data strategy that sort of underpins the AI?
And it's really about good old problem solving. Like right now, I'm in a situation that's really exciting. I love new challenges. My friends have been innovators, and I'm always onto something. I became a runner as a byproduct of midlife crisis. So they keep up with me talking about running all the time. And the new challenge that I have for 2025, I'm so excited. I'm the head of a team of data scientists, and I was hired with them knowing I'm not a data scientist. But the one thing that I know by creating the LLM is that, and you know that too, how when you want to pull information in an organization, how it's all over the place, it's different files, not cohesive, sometimes doesn't match, the formatting is not the same. And you cannot do much with AI if there is no cohesion, if data is not clean. You don't have to be a data scientist to understand the basic of that. Maybe you don't know how to do it, but one thing that you need it done for you to unleash really powerful AI usage is for you to create what I mentioned, data lake. Everything is one box, right? You create the repository of all the good information that you need to create actions. The reason why I accepted this position is that all that work has been done. That was the sexiest thing. There were other positions that even had higher compensation. I'm like, no, I can get stuff done here. This work has been done. So for over a year, this company has not been doing sexy stuff, has not been implementing any Gen AI solutions at all, because they solely focus on cleaning the data sets and creating a strategy for data management. Now my work becomes much easier, because if I partner with a partner like you, like I have my house organized. And if you're not the person in charge of that, go find out who that person is. Because one thing that you're going to see in retail teams is the walls breaking, and you guys are all going to be stepping each other's toes. CFOs that don't know tech. I said something a little controversial in a CEO dinner last night. I said that if you don't use a Gen AI app in your day-to-day life, in your house, like reading something foreign or planning your vacation, just as a way to train your brain to prompt and search. If you're still Googling the same way, not that I'm anti-Gemini, but I'm saying try Perplexity, like try a different experience. If you're not doing that and you're an executive of high caliber in a retail company, I said it on the mic too, oh gosh. I said, I really hope you no longer have your job next year. I know there were some really big people there. I was really tired, guys. I was grumpy. But that applies to you too. So when you hear people saying, oh, AI is going to take your job. No, AI is going to take the job of people who are resisting and dragging their heels. The people saying, oh, like sometimes I say I'm too old for TikTok, right? I am. But I mean that justly, right? No one is too old for AI. This thing is not that freaking complicated. At Bacelar, I had the honor to train part of our workforce. So 300 people went through training, Gen AI training. It was against all the age groups. I know a little curiosity genius right here in front of me that inspires me, who was a former colleague. And this is not about young versus old at all. I had 20-year-olds dragging their heels, and really they were the lowest performers of the course, and 50-year-olds that should be in charge of what Gen AI represents today. Read that book, Mindset. That book is one of my favorite books for the moment that we're living right now, because that's a wake-up call that we all need right now.
One obvious question, you had mentioned, I think, that at Estee Lauder you had decided to sort of build and train your own foundational model. That's a very big and
I don't recommend it.
venture, which is where I was going to go. So there are a number of ways in which companies can actually interact with AI, all the way from potentially building your own model through various techniques that we call RAG or LoRa. Any sense of sort of where you think these people should start? And
for
where they
sure.
might get better value?
For sure. Once again, don't be led by the hype, and start developing a culture of trusting yourself. Lean into your ignorance. Okay, let me tell you a secret. All these people, they are doing keynotes and very big stages about this topic. Imagine the biggest people that you look up to. They don't know what the fuck they're talking about right now, and they know that. Everyone's pretending, okay? There are people that I respect, like Eric Schmidt. He gave an incredible podcast interview saying, I don't know what's going on right now. And he explains in detail why. So right now, everyone is figuring out there's not this ocean of people that are smarter than you. What you need to do that separates you from the rest is your willingness to start looking and learn. So for instance, who are the top 5 models today? If you don't know that, it's your job to know. If you came to this talk, please know it's your job to know. You don't have to know, should you work with them, the difference, but just kind of have a sense. This Llama, this GPT-4, Gemini. And what's happening right now is that those models, for you to work with them directly, they're very expensive. And if you're talking about OpenAI, for instance, there's a lot of risk there for you to give them their data. I don't care what they say. I'm not giving them my data. I really do not care what they say. And if you are a startup using OpenAI API, to then sell me something, I'm telling you, I'm not working with you. And so I told a couple kids there at Javits yesterday, they didn't understand why. They didn't ask a follow-up question, why. So what you should do then is understand how can you play with this safely. So the way that I did, I leaned into Microsoft, which is Azure. Azure uses OpenAI through a secure system so the data doesn't leave, because I had Azure already in my organization, so that didn't cost me any money. And that allowed me to learn a ton. It was almost like a little model university for me. I never played with that before, so I learned a lot. And I learned that that's something that you shouldn't do, like to build LLMs from scratch. And this I did was November 2024. That was a long time ago now. Is it now? November 2023 was when I started building this. So it was a long time ago, way ahead of the time. And then after that, there's new things that people started saying. They started saying SLMs. Have you heard that? Small language models. So what's the difference of LLM and SLM? Ask Perplexity. I don't have to tell you. So you have already assistants to educate you. And then the last one that I'll leave you with is the agentic. So I do think you should start thinking about agentic, but maybe not in the way that the sales teams are selling to you. It's not one solution, or it's not one specific approach. Start getting ready to unleash a succession of actions in your company. Start thinking, what kinds of areas in the organization can you do? Like this creates an analysis, and then like invoicing. We receive the invoice, we check if the invoice is correct, one action. We send the invoice to this department, so if it's from a specific region, it gets paid from a specific place. Second action, process the payment from that bank. That's going to be a human. This could be a chat bot. You know what I mean? And start thinking, you don't have to be an engineer to start having fun with that. And then when you meet the vendors, you're going to feel that magic. Oh, I can plug into this, or that thinking has been already there. You should not be outsourcing thinking right now. Deloitte and McKinsey, all of those incredible partners, they can validate your thinking. They can help you cross the finish line. But initial, annoying, blank page that makes you feel dumb, you should do it yourself. No one is too dumb to do this. I had that feeling at some point of blank page. But if you start, your knowledge just gets accelerated really fast. Was this useful?
Yes. I mean, so maybe we should take a few questions from the audience. Be very happy to answer any that people may have.
Brave enough to ask a question?
Anyone working on deciding what AI to do for your company and having to justify it?
I can ask a softball question. Sure. You mentioned just being a user of the technology, right? Just get comfortable. What are some ways that you use different Gen AI apps or different personal use cases?
Yeah, so I mentioned this on the last Brand Innovator talk. The room was really full, and I got a ton of LinkedIn messages on this. So I'll repeat some of the things I said that day. I really think it's important for you to understand multimodal if you don't understand that already. And the quickest way for you to do that, there's so many apps with that, but the quickest way is use ChatGPT if you have the subscription. It has to be the paid version. And on your mobile phone. It has to be on your phone, not on desktop. So when you open GPT on your desktop, which I use 5 million times a day, although I'm switching teams now to another solution, but that's besides the point. When you open GPT, there is this little white circle with lines on the right-hand side that people tend to ignore. That's the multimodal function. That's the voice function. You can talk to it. And one thing that I did with this voice function here, I said, I'm going to do it live. Estou numa conferência em Nova York, estou falando português, mas a audiência só fala inglês. Então, traduz para mim quando eu falar algo em português, ok?
Claro, posso ajudar com isso. Pode falar que eu traduzo.
Ok, boa tarde a todo mundo. Vocês têm que começar a aprender um pouco mais de inteligência artificial.
Good afternoon, everyone. You all need to start learning a bit more about artificial intelligence.
She said artificial intelligence. So what happened is, in my last vacation, my daughter made a friend from Finland. and she didn't speak any English. And so I gave to the girls, and you have to give one prompt in the beginning that says, I speak this language, the other person speaks this other language. We're going to be talking to each other. You need to recognize which language is being spoken and quickly translate to the other language. You only have to say that once. It's not like Google Translate that you have to keep clicking. No, it's just naturally. Just put that on top of the table and have a conversation. So that's one. And the second one is the plus sign here on the left-hand side. Instead of using words, take a picture of something in, like I love buying my groceries at Kmart. You guys, is it Kmart? No, hold on. That Korean supermarket. H-Mart. H-Mart. And I see all these things that they grab that I did not know what it was, and how sometimes I bring it home. I don't know how to cook the damn thing. But now it's so much fun. When I come back from H-Mart, I usually put everything on top of my table. I take one photo and I say, guide me through all these dumplings. Tell me which one I should do, what's the recommended way of cooking for each one of them, and even rank them in the order of popularity. It's really, really fun. One thing I also did, I took a picture of my fridge, opened the door, took a picture. What can I do for dinner tonight? Right? So by playing this way, when you go to work, you start rethinking the way you engage. And by searching on Perplexity, you start realizing that when you get the first round of results, it's just the beginning of the conversation. It's not like Google that, oh, this is it, I'll run with it. No, hold on a second. Can I tweak it a little bit? Can you go a little deeper? Can you regionalize it? Or can you hyper-personalize? And then you start understanding how to be a consumer, right? And then you go back to work and you serve your consumer better.
So I think we need to add savor of marriages and families, because
for
what's
sure.
for dinner tonight
So
might
great.
be the make or break for AI for some families.
Oh, and I tried it yesterday. My cat, I just got a Siberian cat, and that cat is out of control. It's so vocal in the middle of the night. So I recorded a cat, and I asked, what do you think the cat's saying?
Oh, that's a good one. All right, any final questions? Yeah, we have one question over here, and then we're going to...
Hi, Anthony Glenn. Liz, you talked about agentic AI. Just really curious about your thoughts on the future of commerce with agentic and how brands and retailers don't become disintermediated from the retail buying decision-making process. Like, what is the new brand experience within agentic?
I don't know when you asking that if you're thinking about consumer facing. I think the key for agentic right now is really forget the consumer. Let's leave the consumer alone, for God's sake. And it's not about replacing the human touch point at all. The humans like humans. If anything, it's about enhancing that chatbot and creating being able to bring the human in when needed as fast as possible. But agentic is really in the back end. When I think about the relationship with brands and wholesalers, there are some incredible brands who have really bad relationships with their distributors, with their wholesalers. The way they share data, the way they share replenishment, and the way that they do inventory data management. It's disjointed. It doesn't align. So agentic would create that alignment. I think the relationship could be enhanced. I think performance for both sides would be upgraded. So I'm thinking about that space lately.
Okay, great. I want to thank Liz, and I want to thank Anthony as well for this enlightening panel. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.